Good question, David. Just to back up what Mike Lafton was saying there, the dominance of Virat Kohli with India's batting in that first test in Birmingham, 149 out of 274 and 51 out of 162. He has made some technical changes from way back in 2014. Now, so we have a look at him in his stance to begin with. What differences do you see with 2014 on the left and Edgbaston on the right?
Well, first of all, it looks like in 2014 he's probably taking middle and leg, just with the camera angle there. Now, if anything, he's taking middle and off. But the most obvious change, I would say, is in 2014 on that green top, he's right back in his crease. Having spoken to Sachin Tendulkar after that tour, Sachin advised him in England, try and get closer to the ball before it moves, get out in front and bat out of your crease, and that's exactly what he did in the last game.
So what's Sachin saying to him about where his feet should be as we move through his trigger? If I try and stop it just about the point that Jimmy releases it there, what's he trying to get right here? Do you want me to move it on a bit?
He's trying to get further forward, he's trying to get at the ball before it moves. He's also trying to get that foot down. If you look at on the right, Sachin told him it's almost like a forward press against the spinner. Get forward, get that movement out of the way, whereas in 2014 you can still see his foot hovering in the air, which means at the last second when it nibbles in India and the subcontinent, you have time to adjust. Here in England, when you have that late movement from someone like Jimmy Anderson, your foot is still hovering in the air. It just has to move, and there's a lot to happen in the last second, whereas Kohli on the right there has got all his movements out the way, and he's got across to the line of the ball. He said in that masterclass that he did that also in England on that tour, he was expecting all the time, he was looking for the in-swinger, and he forgot about Jimmy Anderson's outswinger. Now he's looking for that outswinger, which does mean this is the game of cricket. He does become occasionally vulnerable, as we saw in the second innings to Ben Stokes, to the one that just comes in.
Let's look at that position, though, from side on, Kumar. So, again, 2014 on the left, Edgbaston on the right. Frozen at exactly the same time, the same time frames. Why is that position on the right at Edgbaston giving him a better chance of moving into the ball, would you say?
I think it's not just that forward press, it's what happens afterwards, because if he needs to go further forward from there onwards, he actually commits further forward. In 2014, what usually happens to him is once that foot lands, it doesn't move anywhere else from there, and he tries to catch up with the ball and the swing with his hands. And you saw that happen to a lot of the Indian batsmen, including Ajinkya Rahane, who's excellent away from home, that when there is a bit of doubt, they lose this commitment and that mental attitude of committing and keep trusting the game plan, and the foot doesn't move anywhere from where it plants, and it's all about the hands. It gets you into a lot of trouble. If you go back one frame to the earlier one as well, Wardy, you can see that he's made a conscious effort to stay more upright and a little bit more side on at the stance. His alignment of the bat is a lot straighter. It was at third slip there. It's about first to 1.5 here. His front shoulder stays in a bit longer.
There's the bat angle.
And if you take the elbow where it aligns at the start, is slightly different to where it aligns, especially in this tour. But I agree with Nasser. It's having a very clear thought process about committing that front foot and getting closer to the ball and not going away from it, even if you do get beaten or you nick. He nicked, but he still kept pressing on that front foot and getting as close as possible to the ball, because mentally I think it's accepted that in England you are going to nick, you have to be lucky, you're going to get beaten, but that's okay, keep trusting the game plan.
You mentioned getting out at the ball. Let's have a look again, back to 2014 and then at Edgbaston. This is the line that England are going to want to bowl at him, just outside off stump as they do to most batsmen. But if I flip that round side on, conscious effort and a definitive line that he is now coming out and going at the bowler.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing was from the bowler's view, excellent from England. The grouping to Kohli, the line there was perfect, but if you go sideways on there, you can see the definitive change he's made. He's gone 2 or 3 foot further out. Now, everyone at home will be thinking, well, why doesn't everyone do that? I can tell you that is quite a difficult change to move. The initial movement is not much of a change. Kumar, excuse me. Anyone, you know, my 12-year-old can move from there to there. But then to go at the ball from that position, what that tends to do is give you hard hands and go at the ball, because everything is saying going in that direction. You lose control of the bat face, as Shikhar Dhawan and various other Indians. Look at Rahul trying it. Watch how far out his bat goes out in front. He's almost trying to drag the back bat at the last second. Watch Dhawan, how much out in front he's playing. They're all trying this going at the ball, but they're not succeeding it. He loses his balance in the end. Watch him lose his balance there, Dhawan. And that's why I'm so impressed with Kohli, It's one thing saying, I'm going to make this change. It's another thing doing it and playing the ball late and getting that ball. You can tell when a person's playing it late, the ball lands right by your feet. I've got some examples here. The first three, don't worry about too much because the ball goes down. He's running it almost down to third man. After three, put a circle in there, Wardy, please. Watch the way the ball lands by his feet. That is a sign that he is playing it late, right by his feet. Tendulkar used to do that drill. Here at Lords, he used to do that drill. Yeah. He used to get the bloke to throw it in the throw-downer. There must be a better word than that. There must be a better word than that. And he used to play the ball, and he used to get cross with himself if the ball rolled into the side of the net. He wanted it landing by his feet, playing it late.
When you had your throwdowners and your sundowners, did you practice that?
Not a lot. That wasn't a great part of my game. But what was a great part of my game when I adjusted to England was the control of the hands and trying to make sure that I didn't go searching with my hands out. And one of the reasons why Kohli has been, and others have not, is that control. He's always had the control. But if you go back and you look at the groupings and you watch especially Shikhar Dhawan when you overbalance, you understand that if you plant that front foot, and Kohli does at the start, and if you don't go anywhere else from there, your body needs to adjust to make up for the lack of a base. So Shikhar, what he does, he loses control of the hands and he also falls over because he doesn't have the stride length to really give him balance and to have that control of the hands.
Here's Shikhar.
There we go. He falls over because it's planted, it's not gone. Kohli would have that forward press, which he made adjustment, but from there, he still makes a conscious effort to move further down and get closer to the ball, and that allows him to have even more control on the front foot with his hands and have them in a position that doesn't really allow him to go hard at the ball.
Could have been also different if Milan taken that catch on 21. England obviously trying to get, certainly Jimmy Anderson trying to get Kohli nicked behind the wicket. This was 2014 where England were attacking him right on the top of off stump. Now, you've made the point he's now coming down at the bowler and a little bit further across. He is, though, if I flip that onto the heat map from Edgbaston, still inclined to go at it. Deliveries missed and edged. Would he be better off ignoring everything and just leaving anything that sort of side of his eye line? Is that still an area he can work at in English conditions?
He would, but he's Virat Kohli. His gut instinct, and this is what impressed me so much about the last game, his gut instinct is to score runs. Here is not a blocker who just wants to occupy the crease. His gut feel is, I'm here to entertain, I'm the greatest player on the planet, he's #1 in the world again. So he did play at quite a few. That's the conditions. When it's moving around that much, you will fiddle at a few balls that you don't want to. But B, where he was smart, Wardy, was how he played Jimmy Anderson. We had that thing with Jimmy, and we loved the battle, and Jimmy talked us through that battle. But he really played Jimmy perfectly. His strike rate against Jimmy, I'm not coming after you, I'm going to go against the rest. His strike rate against Anderson was nothing, and he went against the rest. That is managing your innings. Seeing the main threat being the #1 bowler in the world who got him out 4 times in 50 deliveries on the previous tour, negating him and scoring off everyone else. That is game management at its best.
We'll come on a bit more of that in a minute, but Kumar, your views on what he's doing here, because again, dropped on 21, dropped a couple of times, edges. I mean, England are still challenging him out there. What should or should not he be doing with this line of delivery? Is it simply a case of leaving it better?
Well, I like the fact that he's looking to score runs. If I come here to England, I'm not going into survival mode because I'm going to get a ball that I can't manage and I'm going to get out. It could have been 21 for Kohli in that particular innings. He was dropped, but he got through it. But what he didn't do was go back into the 2014 mode of stop moving his feet, stop trusting the game plan and strategies put in place, and just trying to survive out there. What I would like Jimmy Anderson to do as well to Kohli is something on the lines of what Philander did. Leave it out there, get him playing, but instead of trying to nip one back in, swing one back in. Because when you have aligned yourself, especially to the offside, and plan for Jimmy Anderson bowling that line, you do give away a little bit of your strength on the leg side. And we saw on the leg side, which is one of Kohli's greatest strengths, especially on the back foot, he was closed off and he had to kind of jump away and manage some of the things that nipped back in. He was more in control when the ball was on middle and off and pitched fuller. I would like Jimmy once in a while, leave it out there, but instead of nipping, just swing one back in and see whether he can do a Stokes and get him out LBW and have Virat Kohli trying to balance both and thinking about both.
Let's go back, go on.
There's a bit of risk and reward in that, though. You know, if you go there and you get it wrong, Kohli will hit you away all day, leg side. And Jimmy did a thing in the paper this week where we think Jimmy and Virat don't get on particularly well. But actually in the middle, Jimmy did go straight. Virat clipped him for 4 and Virat ran the other end, turned to Jimmy, you're not getting bored bowling outside off to me, are you? And Jimmy said, no, I'm not getting bored. So that is a risk and reward. You can go straighter, as Ben Stokes has done, as various bowlers did, Sam Curran did, but you will get clipped for 4. And you know Jimmy doesn't like going for 4. So he's going to try and get control against Kohli.
Come back to that point in just a moment, but just the psychology of what he might be going through. So built up this series, me against Anderson, what happened in 2014? On 21, a same sort of delivery should have been dismissed. Would he have any thought? Would he have doubted himself at any stage in the changes he've made? Would he have been thinking, oh, here we go again?
Well, I'm sure it would. If he had taken that catch, it might have been slightly different for Virat. It didn't give him an opportunity to keep testing himself against Anderson and then, farm the strike with the tail and really make an impact in the game. The key is when you set up a battle, you need everyone to execute their skill. Malan was found wanting in the slips, and that allowed Kohli to get away. And now I think Kohli's really understood, yes, it has worked, it does work, I can nick a few, but I can get beaten. But if I trust myself and my ability, it's good enough to score runs anywhere.
I will say, give the guy a little bit of a break at Edgbaston. But batting for that long in those conditions against Anderson, Broad, Stokes, Curran, you're allowed to nick a few with that ball moving around like it did. There was no let-up in the movement. There was no period of play at Edgbaston where it wasn't moving. And even a world-class #1 player will nick a few, and that's where England have got to grab them.
I was speaking to Sir Clive Lloyd yesterday, and he made a point about batting ugly. And that's what Virat did against James Anderson. Even when he was batting with the tail, there was no free flow of runs against Anderson. He was really careful against Anderson still when he was right on top of the bowling. So he decided to bat ugly. He's trusted himself, and he'll probably continue that against Anderson in this game as well.
Just to expand the point then about perhaps going a little bit straighter. Short leg? Potentially? Yeah, England go that way?
Not just straighter, but it'll stop him lunging the way he did. There was two that would have gone, one would have gone to short leg, one would have gone straighter, but it just stops him lunging. And this is Kumar's point about bowling straighter. In the end, that's how Stokes got him. Just roll him back, and you'll see his head position. Draw a line on his head position if you can, Wardy, please. You can see how much, because for 3.5 days, he's got covering that line with his head. The surprise ball from Ben Stokes. Only Ben knows whether I'm going for the magic ball or I've just got the lean a bit too much and lost it a bit. Ben will claim I went for the magic delivery. But that is risk or reward. He will eventually hit you. I'll tell you when you could do that. Jimmy has bowled better at the nursery end of late, and batting at that far end, the pavilion end, the slope does get your head go over even more. So you can get Kohli, the amount of right-handers that get LBW at the pavilion end, that sort of dismissal could well come into play against Kohli.
About Sam Curran, if Sam Curran starts getting the ball to swing, I mean, he's standing out of his stumps here, Nas. Could, at some point, and Jack Russell tweeted about this during the Edgbaston test, could Johnny Bairstow come up to the stumps, try and drag him back?
Well, he can't do to Anderson, Broad and Wokes, definitely not. Too quick, and you're worried about the outside edge. You come up. Kumar, is Sam Curran too quick? Would Sam Curran, you know the lad, would he worry about someone like you coming up the stump against him?
I think most of the time it does worry the bowler. It takes a few options away from me. He has to really be on target. If he goes down leg side trying to search for swing, it's hard for the wicketkeeper to move down at that pace. He's not a plodder. He's bowling 83, 85 miles an hour, and that's pretty quick. But if it's a strategy you want to work on, you need to talk about it at training, execute at training, and get Sam Curran thinking there might be a chance of the wicketkeeper coming on. And if so, what do I do? Do I slow it down a bit and go for more accuracy, or just I still tell the keeper you're good enough? We talked about this. I'm just going to keep going. It'll take the bouncer out, yes. But that could be a strategy you want to work on.
Has it ever happened in first-class cricket when you played? With Sam,
yeah, well, I used to keep Tuvasi up to the stumps.
No, but for
Sam,
would Sam?
No, not for Sam at first-class cricket. I think it's also an ego thing sometimes with fast bowlers. But if it's a strategy you want to work on, you need to really talk about it and settle on it before you come into a game.
How would that conversation go, though, between you and Vas? Would you just say, right, you bowl it and I'll stop it? Or is it a case of, do you want me to, and how do you want to set the field and whatever?
It is a conversation. Are you comfortable with me doing it? And also, it's not just about it. Why are we doing it? Why are we doing it against Kohli? He's batting outside the crease. We're finding it difficult to hit his stumps or nick him off because he's meeting the ball exactly where he wants to. Let's create some doubt. Let's get him back in the crease into a 2014 position and see whether he'll do the same mistake. In about 2 or 3 overs, the question might be answered either way, and then you can settle back into doing what you normally do.
Could you bump him? They did that in, what was the last game in India on that tour that they bumped him? Can't remember, but they certainly tried it towards the end at Edgbaston.
That's another way of forcing him back. England have got to work out ways of forcing him back. One, bring a short leg in. If you've got a short leg in, he's not going to lunge as much. 2, the keeper up to Sam Curran. And 3, in periods where it's flatter. Now, there was no need at Edgbaston because there was constant movement. I thought England held their nerve by pitching it up and keeping that movement, keeping that pressure. In a period where it's a little bit flatter, which it can get here at Lord's, if you keep pitching it up and he keeps coming at you, you're going to suffer. So occasionally, Broad, whoever, a bit of aggressive chin music just to move him back in his crease.